These are my 4 recommendations for you that are completely natural. So Stevia, monk fruit, xylitol, and Arrial are simply the best. Okay, so I'm gonna break these down for you one by one. The first one is Stevia. Stevia has a GI of 0, which means it doesn't spike your blood sugar levels, so it is appropriate for diabetics and people on the ketogenic diet. And it actually has a 0 calorie count too. The original Stevia comes from a leaf. It is in Latin America and it's green. So real Stevia powder is green, and then if it's a little more processed and refined, it becomes the white powder. Sometimes though, they're cut with other things. So if you are buying it locally, just read the label. Coming from a baking and cooking perspective, it's actually sweeter than sugar, so you don't need as much of it. And if you're baking, it doesn't have the same mass, so always mix it with something like maple syrup is recommended. And it does have a little bit of an aftertaste, so like don't overdo it. And my personal favorite is monk fruit. So it's the most similar to sugar in my opinion for taste, texture, and density. It has a 0 on the glycemic index, so it doesn't spike your blood sugar levels, making it good for diabetics and people on the ketogenic diet. It's also 0 calories, which is also a bonus. It is stable in high temperatures, so it's really good for baking. And because it has the density, you don't need to be mixing it with anything. You can pretty much do it on par with whatever the amount of sugar is in the recipe. You can use monk fruit respectively. And it is a little harder to find. You can find it in health food stores and a lot of grocery stores too. It's a little more expensive than Stevia, but not that much, and it's actually very comparable in price to the other 2 sugar alternatives that I'm going to mention. So that's why it's my favorite, and monk fruit doesn't sound that scary. Okay, so xylitol is actually a really good sugar alternative too. It has a very scary name, but it is completely natural. Originally, xylitol was made from birchwood. Now a lot of xylitol is made from corn. You can get a non-GMO if that is a concern to you, but what it is it's a sugar alcohol. So it is unlike the others in that it's not a 0-0 in terms of glycemic and calorie count. It is about a 7 to 13 on the glycemic index, and it is okay for diabetics, just not a lot of it, because it actually does have a calorie count, which is about 2.5 per gram. It is okay for people on the ketogenic diet, and for cooking and stuff, it's also good. This mass and the taste is very similar. It actually is very good for your teeth, so that is something that's used in toothpaste and mouthwash and stuff, but if you eat too much of it, it can cause digestive problems like diarrhea, so just be careful and use in moderation. And Arrial. Arrial is naturally occurring in fruits and even some fermented foods. I don't necessarily know where your Arrial is coming from, but generally speaking, Arrial is a 0 on the glycemic index. It doesn't spike your blood sugar levels, so it's great for diabetics. It's also good for people on the ketogenic diet. In terms of calories, it's almost 0. It's about 0.24 per gram, which is next to nothing. It's very minimal influx. And coming from a baking or cooking perspective, it is a really great alternative. If you like things a little less sweet, it's actually only about 70% of the sweetness, so it's not as sweet. So you can always maybe use a little more if you need to, or just do it on par, which is what I would recommend. It is also stable in high temperatures, so it's very good in that respect. And it does have a similar texture, flavor, and taste. It's also something that's also mixed with other sweeteners a lot of the time. So there's so many reasons to avoid sugar. The first time I had the opportunity of cutting sugar out of my diet, and I noticed incredible differences. So since then, I've been pretty sugar-free. And there's a multitude of reasons why people would want to cut sugar out of their diet, whether they're diabetic and they don't want it spiking their blood sugar levels, or they're ketogenic, and maybe they have teeth problems, it's bad for your gut, it is bad for your brain. It's actually been said that it's like cocaine to the brain. So there's so many reasons that we should avoid eating the sweet stuff.